Hello and welcome back. It's a very quick turnaround this week. These midweek games are coming round to haunt us already. None and Never fans, it is the preview show, and this week we are looking at a midweek fixture at against Plymouth Argyle. We're not going all the way to Plymouth. We're going to Turf Moor. Make sure that you're in the right place, listeners. I am joined as ever this week by regular statistician Dave Roberts, and we have a very special guest who is our Plymouth fan. So, listeners, without further ado, let's go. Excellent, gentlemen. Welcome to the No No Never preview show. We have, of course, got our regular statistician, the best view in football, and that is Dave Statman Roberts. Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. I'm trying to get used to these quick turnarounds for Tuesday and Wednesday matches. It's a little bit different. We didn't have too many of them last season, but in the Championship, we've got to get used to them, don't we?
Yeah, we certainly do. And we are joined by a very special guest, Aaron from Green and White. Is it Argyle Life, the Green and White?
Yeah, it's a bit complicated. We host the Green and White podcast, but the overarching brand is Argyle Life. I didn't name it, so don't blame me. But
I know.
Yeah,
I think as content creators, we do like to make things overly complicated for ourselves, don't we? I think that's fine. Well, Aaron, it's very lovely to have you on the show. Thank you very much for giving up your time this Sunday afternoon to give us a preview. As ever, listeners, this is all about getting to know our Plymouth fans. So we're going to kick off straight away with Dave's 2 facts, please, before we move to Aaron and get to know our opposition. Dave, give us some stats.
Yeah, a couple of stats to kick us off. Burnley failed to win any of the first 6 matches against Plymouth Argyle at Turf Moor, drawing the first 4 and losing the next 2. They were all played during the first half of the 1930s. Since World War II, Plymouth have only managed to win twice at Turf Moor in 19 attempts, once in the League Cup and once in Division 2. On both occasions, the former Burnley goalkeeper, Tony Waiters, was the Plymouth manager. Both of Argyle's last 2 visits to Turf Moor in 2008 and 2012 ended in draws.
Good stuff. Well, they were a cheery stat to start us off with, Dave. I'm glad you turned that around a little bit. Aaron, let's kick us off then. I'm going to take you right back to last season, please, because we're gonna rip that Band-Aid off and we're going to have a little bit of a therapy session for you about last season. Last game of the season, you managed to survive and retain your Championship status at the expense of Birmingham, which was quite hilarious. We all laughed at that, I must say. We were all kind of rooting for you. But I guess talk us through how that last season went. Were you always expected to stay up? Was it a disappointing season? And I guess how much, what did you feel by the end of the season?
I think it went exactly how we all expected it to, really, because at the start of the season, we said we'd stay up. We'd hope we'd stay up. That was the aim. That was the ambition. We managed that. Managed it, like you say, on the final day by a point, but it was dramatic. So it gave us something to talk about all the way up until the end of the season. I think you guys might know that, when your relegation is nailed on a bit earlier, it gives you less to think about as a content. So, it was good for us in terms of, like I said, output and content, and as a fan, we genuinely, I think, thought we were going down with about 4 games to go, despite not actually being in the relegation zone. I don't think we were in the relegation zone all season. If we were, it was for an hour or 2. We had Stephen Schumacher obviously left. Upton left and went to Stoke halfway through the season, literally just as the January transfer window was about to open, which is never good, never fun. Yeah. He is currently unemployed, so whether the grass is greener, I'm not too sure. Although his bank balance will be much healthier, I can imagine.
Do we know all about this, Aaron? Yeah, we've had similar experiences. Sorry, carry on.
No, and obviously that unsettled us a bit. We brought in a coach who was schooled in the FA way of things, had all the right credentials, but just clearly not the man management or the tactics to keep us up. Tried to ship out like some of our best players, or Joe Edwards, who scored the goal on the final day to keep us up, was one that he was trying to ship off to Bristol Rovers. So it says a lot, really. And then we brought in, instated Kevin Nanskiville and Neil Dewsnip as joint caretaker managers, and they got us over the line. And I think, like I said, at the start of the season, keep us up, we'll take it. And I think similar this season, really. Although we seem to be doing all right so far, a lot better than
you are. A
We'll get
cracking
on-
result for you
sure.
yesterday. Yeah, no, I mean, yesterday we're recording this on Sunday after a cracking 3-1 victory over Luton, many of whom tipped for an immediate return back to the Premier League and definitely be pushing for the Championship title this season. You have a manager who is in the headlines quite a lot, and you've got a manager who many people, whether rightly or wrongly, dismiss as having any credentials as a manager at all. I guess you are the current custodian of Wayne Rooney. So how is it? I guess I'd be really interested to hear, like, what the fans, what did you think of the appointment? What do you think of him now? And I guess, what do you expect from him this season?
Yeah, we initially fury, rage. I just couldn't understand it for the life of me. We were a club that was so used to making good decisions and spending money wisely and making the right choice and getting where we are, despite the lack of means and budget, really. And it just, after Ian Foster, to hire Wayne Rooney just seemed absolutely baffling. I couldn't for the life of me get my head around it. And our chairman did an interview, like, talking about the reasons, and it was sort of like one of those, a lot of PR, a lot of spin, but you sort of just, yeah, fine, whatever. And then it got to a point in pre-season, we went out to Marbella. We played Orlando Pirates out in Spain. And we went out, and there wasn't many of us, about 40 of us. I think it's because the Euros were on. More people would have gone if they weren't in Germany.
Yeah.
And we got an up close Q&A with Wayne. Spent an evening in a very expensive bar in which Rooney picked up a bit of the tab. The club picked up the other half. So thank God, because it was a bit pricey. And then when you actually get to meet him and talk to him, you just realise I think he actually just wants to be not normal, but just like a normal bloke. He doesn't want to be, Wayne Rooney the superstar. He wants to be Wayne Rooney the manager now, and I think you have to give him a lot of credit for dropping down to teams like Plymouth, because a lot of people wouldn't, right? Even your head coach, I can't see him wanting it that much to come down to a club like us. And the same with Frank and Steven Gerrard.
It's that old boys club, isn't it? It's the ex-players who appear to be getting managerial appointments based on name rather than, I guess, a CV. And he was the first, I guess.
Yeah, and to that point, I think I initially thought it was just because he was Wayne Rooney. I thought, this is a bit of PR for the club, gets our name out there. Loads of people will know who Plymouth Argyle are. We'll get some investment in. We can spend some money, and we'll get rid of him, and then we'll get somebody else. But so far, it's gone.
So far, so good, yeah. But actually, also, Aaron, from a commercial perspective, which I think gets overlooked a lot in football, because football is the overriding everything to most football fans. But actually, I don't necessarily think that's a bad commercial decision if that was the reason that they got him, because it's about generating a brand and generating revenue outside of ticket sales, shirt sales, and your immediate asset base, which is your players. And I think a lot of people turn their noses up a bit at that, but I don't exactly think it's that bad a commercial decision.
No, and to be fair, it must have worked to some extent. I mean, I can imagine it's brought in extra sponsorship, extra match day revenue, all that sort of stuff. I know that I can imagine there's quite a few, United fans in this part of the world that have been to Argo and seen us recently too. And, he is highlighted on every time we're on Sky now, rightfully so, as one of England's best ever players. But it's bringing the spotlight to the club that no other manager would have bought that, I don't think. Not even a Lampard. I think it's just because it went so horrifically wrong. All eyes are
it's the click, isn't it? It's what they want. Listen, we absolutely found that, irrespective of all of Sean Dyche's achievements in keeping Burnley in the Premier League for the best part of 8 seasons over an 11-year period, the minute Vincent Kompany became our manager, we were on TV all the time. We were, and also what I found very bizarre, we didn't get the negative press that we used to get under Daesh. And even when Kompany had the most abysmal season last season, won 4 games all season, like his friends at Sky were just not calling him out on it. It was never talked about as in the sacking race, and it was never talked about as an appalling manager. So it's an interesting strategy to get the press on your side, I think, particularly
it's quite interesting to compare those two, though, right? Because I think it was only about 4 wins that Rooney got at Birmingham, and look at how he was castrated, and maybe rightfully so. I'm not saying any fan is wrong to criticise how badly it went under Rooney at Birmingham, but when you compare that to how badly it went for Kompany, who had a lot longer with yourselves.
I suppose it's the Premier League, isn't it? It's expectations, isn't it? Birmingham were expected to push for promotion in the Championship. We were expected to get relegated from the Premier League. Maybe that's played into it. I don't know. Maybe just. Yeah. So what's Rooney's expectations this season, and what's the minimum that he has to do to keep his job?
I think it's just buy into the Argyle ethos, which I've always hated these people that have been like spoken about like a West Ham way, or like things like that. But actually, we found under Ian Foster there is an Argyle way, and we weren't playing it, and we're back to it. And I think actually he's gained a lot of support now after the last 3 games.
Yeah,
because we're back to this like heart attack football style of play that we've sort of become accustomed to. And I think actually if he carries that on, if he carries that on and we stay up, I think
he'll stay for a while. Yeah.
Does
he get to keep his job if you fall out the Championship this year? I'm not suggesting you will by any stretch of imagination, but if things go horribly and you do get relegated, does he get to keep his job? Is he in this for a project?
Yeah, I think it depends. I think it depends how we've been playing and what results have been like, because there's different ways of being relegated, right? And
it's who's to blame? It's where does the responsibility lie? Yeah.
And if Steven Schumacher stayed with us and got us relegated last season, he would have kept his job because of what he's achieved. And I think we're not historically a club that sacks managers anyway. Getting rid of Ian Foster after 2 months or whatever it was actually a bit of a shock to all of us, despite how bad it was on the pitch. And I think we are embedded in this long-term project. But if Simon Hallett, our owner, can see a long-term project in which Wayne Rooney can get us back out of League One, then maybe he keeps his job. But I think if he gets us relegated, I think he might just turn around and walk away from football management, to be honest.
I think he might do, to be fair. Although he does seem to have, he's one of those ex-players that, irrespective of the headlines and everything, he's always struck me as having football in his DNA. I can't imagine him coming away. I think he'd drop even further down just to be in football. I think he always struck me as having that level of humble in him, where he might say, you know what, I'll take a non-league side and I'll work my way back up, because if nobody else wants me, I just want to manage. I just want to play football. So maybe.
Yeah, I could see him popping up at Salford anyway. If it goes horribly wrong with us.
Excellent stuff. Dave, we've played Plymouth, obviously, many times in the past. Can you pick up a particular game that you're going to highlight as our memory match, please? A game against Plymouth. Plymouth at. You know what, Aaron? This is really difficult because our last previous show that we did was a couple of weeks ago was Portsmouth, and I've been getting you both mixed up the whole week between Portsmouth and Plymouth. It's been really bad, honestly. So if I get through this entire previous show and I don't call you Portsmouth, this will be fantastic. Dave, which game against Plymouth at Turf Moor have you highlighted for our memory match, please?
For this week's No Name Never Remembers, we're going to go back to the 2006-2007 season for our biggest ever home win against Tuesday's opponents. After a good start to the season, Burnley had failed to win any of the previous 19 matches. We were on a really, really bad run, drawing quite a lot of games, but not managing to win any. The home crowd were a little bit restless after a turgid 0-0 home draw against Luton Town 3 days earlier. That was on the Saturday. This match was on the Tuesday night. But Michael Duff scored the opener after 13 minutes, and it was 2-0 after 20 minutes, thanks to Paul McVeigh. And Steve Jones made it 3 before half-time. Wade Elliott then made it 4 just after the hour mark, and Sylvan Ebanks Blake missed a late penalty for the visitors, and it finished as a much-needed 4-0 home win. That was Tuesday, the 3rd of April, 2007. I was going to ask the rest of the No Nay Never team for their memories of this match, but on this occasion, I'm going to be a little bit selfish. I think my own story is a better one, if you'll allow me for once.
I will. Go ahead.
It was one of those rare occasions in the last 22 years or so that regular club commentator Phil Bird was unable to get to the match. I'd already been co-commentator for a few away games, so after a little bit of persuasion, I took the mic with Keith Fletcher as my co-commentator. I must have been a lucky charm, though, as we broke that winless run in style. Also in the commentary box that night, for the BBC, I think, was the late, great John Gwynn, obviously darts and football commentator, who had the pleasure of interviewing a delighted Steve Cottrell after the match. We picked up another 4 league wins for the remaining 7 league matches of the season and stayed up reasonably comfortably in 15th place. But it could have been very different if we'd lost that night against Plymouth.
It could have done. That is, yeah, I'll allow you that one, Dave. That is a good story. I like how you've just dropped in a quick thin brag that you like to commentate for the BBC. But okay, we'll let you have that one, Dave. We'll let you have that one. You remember that game, Aaron? I'm not sure. I remember that game.
Not. Absolutely not. The some of the names you mentioned there, though, obviously the recent like Barclaysman trend. You've got a few of those in there.
Oh, yeah. Enjoying that.
I remember Brian Jensen as a kid. Absolutely massive bloke. I think I remember him saving a penalty against us, but I thought that was at Home Park. And I've obviously eradicated any 4-0 defeat.
As you should, sir. As you should. We absolutely would not prejudice you from doing that. Dave, let's get a couple more stats from you then, please, before we go on to some more up-to-date information from Aaron. What other stats have you got for us?
Yeah, a couple more for you. The 2 teams met in the playoff semi-finals at the end of the 1993-94 season. The first leg at Turf Moor was goalless, but the Clarets came from behind to win the second leg at Home Park before overcoming 9-man Stockport County at Wembley in the final. I'm sure we'll revisit that away game at Plymouth in much more detail when we preview the reverse fixture against them later in the season. Finally, from me for now, you have to feel rather sorry for any Argyle fans making a round trip of well over 600 miles from Plymouth to Burnley for a Tuesday evening game, although the fixture computer hasn't been kind for Burnley's travelling fans for later in the season either, as that match is currently scheduled for a Wednesday evening in January.
Oh, gosh, that's a bit grim. Well, you know what? I could spend an entire podcast, Aaron, going on about fixtures and, well, I'm not going to do. So let's leave that for another day. Let's bring you right back up to modern times, please, and let's look ahead specifically to the game on Tuesday night. Who in your team do we need to be concerned about? Who's going to cause us some bother?
Yeah, I'm glad we're back to the present because that game in 93, 94 or whenever it was, I wasn't born. So don't remember.
Okay, hang on a minute. There's absolutely no need to be coming on to the preview show and start bragging about how
it's well known. It's well known in Argyle, the Argyle sphere. Is a reason why there is a long-running hatred for Burnley. I believe it's that game anyway. Could be wrong.
I didn't realise that we had a long-running hatred here. I've never had any problem with Plymouth. I now feel all territorial.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I think us
haters, Plymouth fans.
Us quote-unquote younger fans don't have as much an issue.
They're like, what? I think we probably got that from Stockport. Stockport fans hate us from a playoff final back in. Was that same year, Dave? Yeah, that was the same year.
Yeah.
So actually, we've ended up with 2 clubs that really hate us from that same playoff thing. So that's terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Well, I interrupted you, Brad. Go ahead.
Back to our recent season. Who can hurt you? That's a very good question. I think fresh off that 3-1 win over Luton on Friday night live on Sky, I currently love every single player. I think every single player is going to tell you a new one. But I think the main one to look out for is Burnley's own Morgan Whittaker, who decided against a move to Turf Moor, thankfully. I think he, on the right wing, cutting in, he's more of like I don't really know what he is. He's like an inside forward that isn't an inside forward. I'm not really sure. Somebody who's got a statistical brain or a tactical brain might be able to tell you what his actual role is. But he tends to dip in and out of games. I don't want to say he goes missing, but he has these moments.
Aaron, you can say it.
Yeah, but he has these moments of magic where he only needs like one chance from 30 yards out, and it will find the top corner. And his highlights reel would be phenomenal. It's something that I need to cobble together really, because that would get me a couple of likes on Twitter. He can hit a ball, and when he hits a ball, it stays hit. And then on the other wing, we're starting to see fruition from Ibrahim Sissoko. He's on loan from Toulouse in Ligue 1. Played in the Europa League last year, or the Conference League. I want to say Europa League last year. Scored a goal in the Europa League last year. So how we managed to get him on loan, I have no idea. But if he performs like he did on Friday night, coming off the bench, I want to say he played 24 minutes, got 2 goals. If he could do that again on Tuesday, I will be delighted. But he's a bag of tricks. And previously, we were seeing an awful lot of stepovers with not a lot of end product. But against Sunderland, West Brom, and Luton, he has looked electric.
Joy.
So we've got that balance.
Can't wait to see him.
Who else?
Obviously, defensively, what can we? Because the reason I ask this is that we are staggered a little bit, and we are stumbling a little bit against teams that are really defensive against us. We've had it 3 times now this season, and we're struggling to break down. It was 0-0 away at Oxford yesterday against a very resilient defensive side that did just basically not part. I say part of the bus just for ease, not in any disparaging way. Blackburn came to Turf Moor, did exactly the same thing. We just about managed to break down, who was it? Plymouth at Turf. But, can we expect Portsmouth? There you go. 22 minutes in, and I said I would do it. Can we expect an open, expansive play from you that will be free? But so can we expect that? We're not going to expect part of the bus.
I can't see us. I just can't see us parking the bus. We haven't. We sort of tried to do it on the opening day and got battered 4-0. So I hope we don't do that.
So that ends that experiment
against a poor Sheffield Wednesday side. Although on that day they were brilliant, to be fair. But they've been poor since. They are below us in the league, which nobody would have believed after that defeat. But yeah, I just can't see us rocking up and parking the bus or sitting back. I mean, defensively we are quite solid. We have a new centre-back pairing this season in Cornel Such, who is a Hungarian, I want to say 20 years old. He might be younger than that. Right back that we picked up from the top flight in Hungary, but he'd only played something like 7 games and had just come off the season in the 2nd tier of Hungarian football. God knows how we found him. No idea what database we've been using for that one. And he is alongside Lewis Gibson, who Everton previously paid £5 million for from Newcastle United.
Oh, okay.
Never really used him. He left for first team minutes. We picked him up on a free somehow, and he is excellent. He was linked to Luton in the summer, and they could have used him on Friday night because he was phenomenal. So we like everybody is going into this game like in very good form, both defensively and going forward. Up at West Brom, we didn't come away with any points, but we really should have picked up at least one. I think personally, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
I'd prefer a different answer. If it answers the question, I'm not entirely sure I liked the answer. And to be fair, I think I'd quite like a different one, but no, it's fine. Okay, round us off then. What are your expectations and hopes for this season?
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a positive, optimistic fan, but my predictions never back that up. So I'm not quite sure. I've got a head and a heart prediction. My heart is saying that we're going to get something out of it, and it's going to be a good 2-1 win. You know, after me saying that we're not a defensive, we won't set up defensively, we are quite lethal on the break, on the counter-attack. And I think we might do that to you twice late on in the second half. That would be my hope. And then my head is saying, like, you know, Burnley are recently relegated from the Premier League. They're going to batter us. But I also said that on Friday, and that didn't happen either. So, yeah, I'm going to go on my heart. 2-1 Argyle win. 2 goals on the break.
I like this. I like this. Back your team. This is good. You should always do that. Dave, do you want to give us a score prediction then while we're on the subject?
I'd like to think we can win. I think we can. We obviously struggled against Oxford. I think it's got to click at some point. Just a case of trying to get the that final pass and get a bit of composure in front of goal. So hopefully, like it did in 2007, it'll click. I'm not going to go for a 4-0 win. I think it might be a little bit more conservative. I'm going to go 2-0.
Okay.
Burnley.
I think if we were away, I'd be concerned. I think the fact that we're at home and it's Tuesday night under Turf Moor lights, I think that's always going to be a great occasion. I was going to say initially, I think Burnley will win. I'm a little bit concerned about our lack of goals at the moment, so I'm going to say 1-0. That said, from what Aaron's told us tonight, I think we can expect quite an attacking play by them, and I can expect them to try and create some goals, albeit we are very resilient defensively. Our defence is pretty solid. So I'm going to stick to 1-0. Listeners, you know the drill by now. Please, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, take a comment in the bottom, tell us what you think the score prediction will be, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Listeners, if you're listening to this through our podcast channels, drop us a line on social media. Let us have a score prediction, please. Dave, we have, where are we up to? Can we have a quick results overview, please? What are the key stats ahead of this game?
Yeah, well, Burnley have won just under half of the previous home games against Plymouth Argyle, and we're unbeaten in the last 15 meetings at Turf Moor, winning 10 and drawing 5. That's between 1980 and 2012. Burnley's overall past record against Plymouth at Turf Moor is played 27, won 13, drawn 9 and lost 5. Burnley have scored 36 goals and conceded 24.
Good stuff. Well, listeners, you know by now that Dave spends a lot of time and effort each week getting these stats together for the preview show. If you want to hear more, you can go through Dave's stats page. It's got a comprehensive database on there of Burnley stats and facts. Those of you watching on our YouTube channel, there is a screenshot up there now showing you where you can find it. Dave, for the benefit of our podcast listeners, how do they find your database, please?
Yeah, there's a short link for it. It's bit.ly/Burnley Stats QL, and that's all in uppercase. QL standing for quick links, because there's a quick links page and lots of different things to look at. Excellent.
I love the specificity in which stats guys explain things. It's like, I would have never done that. But Dave's like, no, there's a specificity there.
All stats men are called Dave as well. So
they are. Oh my God, they are. They are. We had our Portsmouth opposition fan was also a stats guy, and I was enjoying seeing Dave sweat because he had competition and it was amazing. I was like, just fact check him. Is he right there? Is he wrong? And he wasn't.
He wasn't called Dave though.
No, he wasn't called Dave. No, he wasn't called Dave, but he was a stats guy, and it was very amusing. Right, I'm going to hand over very quickly then to resident referee, our little cheeky chappy guy, George, who's going to give us the referee details, please.
The younger of the two Madley brothers, that's Bobby Madley of Ossett near Wakeland in West Yorkshire, will be back at Turf Moor on Tuesday evening. His 15 previous Burnley matches between 2011 and last year have produced 4 wins for the Clarets, 4 draws, but unfortunately 7 defeats. For the record, Burnley are 6-3-1 in matches refereed by his older brother Andy. But it's Bobby Madley in the middle this time around. And in Bobby's last Burnley match, it was a 1-0 win away for the Clarets in the League Cup at Nottingham Forest in August of last year. As well as sending off one opposition player in his time refereeing Burnley matches, that was Derby County's Chris Martin in 2014. He has also sent off 2 Burnley players. Now they were Kieran Trippier against Charlton Athletic in 2011 and Keith Tracy against West Ham United just 2 years later. The yellow card count is fairly even today, 19 to Burnley players and 18 to our opponents. So fingers crossed, we will have an assured Madley performance on Tuesday night, which is it's incredibly rare to see a good performance from a referee named Madley in the middle, let's be honest. So I'm hoping that the referee doesn't have too much of an impact on the game and the Clarets can get back to winning ways. I thought our performance was decent away at Oxford, and we just need to just stick with it. I don't think there's any need to go over the top with complaints or any mourning yet. You know, I think it will come, the attacking threat, and hopefully that starts on Tuesday night at home to Plymouth Argyle. See you next time. Up the Clarets.
Excellent stuff.
That's really good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it is. It's really good, that one, isn't it? Yeah. Don't tell our listeners that we don't do that little bit live, Aaron. Gosh, honestly, listeners, we get our fans in and they just give away our trade secrets. Listen, Aaron, people who've been listening to the No Nay Never podcast for a long time are quite used to chaos, so it's perfectly fine. Okay, we're going to finish off round up the previous show then with our usual 2 last minute sections. First of all, EFL Talking Point. Dave, there's been some, shall we say, cake and eat it news coming out of Welsh football this week.
You could say that, yeah. I mean, I've got my own views on this. I'll hear yours first, and then I'll chip in with mine at the end. The 4 Welsh clubs from the from the English League pyramid, that's Cardiff City, Swansea City, Wrexham, and Newport County, are currently able to qualify for European competitions by the Premier League, should they get there, the FA Cup or the EFL Cup. But they've had discussions with the Football Association of Wales about entering the Welsh League Cup, currently known as the Nathaniel MG Cup, for a chance to represent Wales in the Europa Conference League. Although they would continue to play league football in England, this move would mean sacrificing their ability to qualify for Europe via English competitions, as Swansea did when they played in the Europa League after winning the EFL Cup in 2013. So I just wondered what everyone's thoughts were on the Welsh teams trying to have their cake and eat it.
Well, I'm going to hand over to you, Aaron, because I feel like Dave's a rules guy. He's a rules guy, so I feel like he's going to get a bit aggy about this. So I'm going to let you have the floor first, because I feel like you might be a little bit more relaxed about this.
Yeah, I think on the grand scheme of things, I don't care enough.
Same.
To be angry or to have a proper opinion, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all, because I think all I want from life is one season in like the Conference League where we get to go to like Latvia and Lithuania and somewhere in like just in the group stage or even in the qualifying.
Aberdeen.
Yeah, exactly. you had a stint in Europe yourselves as well, right? And like seeing like the smaller clubs, even watching West Ham win the Conference League and stuff. I just enjoy that a lot, and I remember Fulham playing Atletico Madrid in the Europa League final or whatever. Was it? No, they didn't play. They played at Atletico. It doesn't matter. Whatever. They made the final. And just seeing clubs like that go far in Europe is quite fun. And I can understand like you're taking away an opportunity from like Connor's Key Nomads or whoever, but. They've had their chances, haven't they? I'd absolutely love.
You didn't take it, so you go let somebody else have a go.
Exactly. I'd absolutely love to see Newport in the Conference League.
Awesome. That would be awesome.
I would like to see that. The only problem you have with it really is if Cardiff and Swansea are only one promotion away from the Premier League. Cardiff maybe 2 next season, and Wrexham are on the surge up through the leagues. If they have realistic Premier League ambitions, this might hold them back from potential European places in the future, because unless they go and win the Conference League through this qualify for the Europa League, and then they'd have to win that to qualify for the Champions League. Whereas, I can imagine they will remove any position they get in the Welsh Cup the second they make 5th in the Premier League, for example. So that's the only qualm I have with it. But for now, I don't care.
Dave, go on. Have a rant.
Well, yeah, I think if they're going to go the whole hog, they should just play in the Welsh League and be done with it, really. End of.
And there you go. And let's leave it at that, because that's a very, very typical Dave way of just saying, nope, it's not in my rule book. I'm not having it, little Dave.
Yeah.
Go on,
The only thing I would suggest is like scrap a Welsh Cup, scrap the Bristol Street Motors, scrap the Ironbrew Trophy, and have like a British Cup in which
Ooh, I like
one
that.
and two, the Welsh Premier League, the Northern Ireland Premier League, and then maybe like Scottish League 1 and 2. You'd have some incredible
That's
away days, wouldn't you?
awesome. How have
Yeah.
we never thought of that before? That is
Just
a
do that.
brilliant idea.
And just give 2 European places to the finalists. That'd be good.
I love that. Do you know what? The campaign starts here, listeners. That is what we are all aiming for. Dave, let's let our wonderful guest leave. We're going to leave him with his opportunity to. Is it level? Will he be bringing us level? Is this game?
No, I think we're 4-3 now, aren't we?
4-3. Yeah, so if he wins, he goes level. So this is our ending on our quiz. Dave's going to set us a question. It's none and ever versus opposition view. It's currently 4-3 to none and ever. I'm not being funny, Aaron, but all of our guests are getting very tactical, and I think they've realised that there's a way to beat me to do this. So we'll see if you pick up on this. You literally, it's a tie-break question. I suspect it's going to be year related, and you have an opportunity to bring our opposition level for this season. So Dave, go on, set us the question.
Yeah, it's a good test of who's been listening earlier on, because there were little bits
come
of
on.
clues.
I don't listen. I was doing other things. Come on.
Exactly. We're after a year, and we're after the year of the last occasion Plymouth Argyle managed to win a match at Turf Moor. So just need to guess the year. Aaron, you as our guest get a choice. You can either go first, or if you're being particularly devilish, you can ask Natalie to go first, and then you can guess second after you've heard her answer.
Yeah, I think I've worked out the tactic. I'll go second.
See, everybody's done it. We were 4-0 up, Aaron, and then suddenly it's going to be 4-4 because our fifth guest went, hang on a minute, there's a tactic involved here. I wasn't listening, Dave, because even though you warned me about this last season, I was multitasking while you were giving us all of our stats, and I was trying to do some other things. So I genuinely don't know. So this is going to be a guess. I'm going to say 2002.
Sure, you said it was something like 30 odd years.
I'm sure you probably did, actually.
Yeah, I'll go 1987.
Well, it's 4-4 because that is closer. The correct answer was 1977. I did mention earlier that
I knew it was
I didn't give the year away. I did say that Burnley haven't lost in the last 15, so that was a clue about how far back it was. And also Tony Waiters was a former Burnley player, was the Plymouth manager, which was in the 1970s. There were 2 wins for Plymouth in the 70s, one in 1973 in the League Cup, and then in 1977 in the Old Division 2.
Great. Happy days. So, listeners, I have thrown away a 4-0 lead. So, from the next preview show, I promise you wholeheartedly I'm going to start listening to Dave, because I'm going to stop multitasking while I'm doing the preview show. Otherwise, we're going to be like, we're not going to get a single point again for the rest of the season. Aaron, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on here today. We have loved meeting you, and thank you so much for giving us all of the lowdown we need about Plymouth, please. Best of luck and Godspeed to all of your travelling fans. What an unbelievable commitment to come up here on Tuesday night. Our thanks are to them as well to come and help in that game. Tell our listeners how they get any Plymouth content that they might want to follow up on, please.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the trip to Turf Moor. I'm having to do an overnighter and stay in a hotel due to work commitments the next day. So it's a bit of a trek. I can't lie. But yeah, we do. I'm not sure we're going to do a preview for this one because if we would, I would have asked you guys on it, and I can't really be bothered to edit it and turn it around.
We'll send you some of these files, and you can just put stuff out here. It's fine. Don't worry.
We're gonna do a little mini preview tonight, but by the time you've heard this, it's most probably yesterday. But you can find all things Plymouth Argyle at Argyle Life 1886 on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. And then you can find us on YouTube and all your podcast platforms. Just search Argyle Life, despite the fact the podcast is called Green and White. Search either. We'll pop up somewhere.
We'll find you.
Sure.
We'll find you. Excellent. And we would love to have you back on the second half of the season. Now, if you fancy joining us for the return fixture down to Plymouth, that would be great. We can check in with you, see how the season's going, see if you've still got Wayne Rooney, see if he's catapulted you up that table, and see how Tuesday night went. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Aaron. Listeners, we will be back midweek with a double episode of the analysis show, looking at that draw away at Oxford and whatever the result is on Tuesday night at home to Plymouth. So do stay tuned to social media. We'll let you know when that comes out. And Dave and I will be back next Friday night for the next episode of the preview show. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the preview show brought to you by the Known and Never podcast. Until next time. The Known and Never podcast is brought to you in association with the talkSPORT Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The analysis show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting knownandnever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners TalkSPORT. We are proud to be associated with the TalkSPORT Fan Network.